all students. Today we are going to take a class on cardiac imaging. I think everybody has joined the class. You will ask questions at the end of the class. So today we are going to discuss about the imaging technique used in cardiology. So first of all, we'll discuss about the echocardiography. Now, basically, echocardiography is the ultrasound of the heart. For echocardiography, we have to place the patient in left lateral position. And here you can see we have a machine through which we can get the images of the heart. It's a simple ultrasound machine through which we get the ultrasound images of the heart. These are the basically recommendations in which we have to place the patient in the left lateral position if patient having a heart on left side. And we place the transducer over the chest. So this is the place where we place the transducer over the chest. So we'll get the live images on the screen. So here you can see in this picture, this is a visionary image of the heart. This is the placement of the transducer. When you place the transducer, the sound waves travels through the body and reflect back to the machine. So these sound waves produces images. So we'll get the images like this. So this is an image of the heart. Here you can see black and white shadows. And again, in the center, you can see different colors. So we call it grayscale. Grayscale means we get the images black and white. So whitish are the structures, blackish are the hollow viscera. So in this image, you can see that these are the different structures which can easily visualize, like left atrium, left ventricle, aorta, right ventricle, intraventricular septum, posterior wall, mitral valve, and aortic valve. And in the center, you see the colors. When we turn on the Doppler, we see two different colors, blue and red. When the blood moves towards the heart, it shows red color. When the blood moves away from the prop, it shows the blue color. So the mnemonic used is BART, B-A-R-T. BART is the blue is away, red is towards the prop. So the movement of the blood in the heart shown as a blue and red. Whenever there is a turbulence, like stenosis, shunts, so we see the different color, mixing of the color like yellow, orange, and green color. So that is significance of turbulence, any kind of. So when we place the prop at the parasternal image, parasternal window, we get the parasternal window, and we can also get a apical window in which we get see all four chambers, ventricles and atrium. In apical window, we can easily see the all four chambers, left ventricle, right ventricle, left atrium, and right atrium. So it's commonly used in cardiology to see the structures of the heart, the function of the heart, and the hemodynamics of the heart. So echo has a vital role in imaging, and even other than cardiology, like medicine, ICU, and all the things. If you are suspecting any cardiac diseases, the basic test we usually perform is the echocardiography. As you know, in echocardiography, we can easily visualize the structures, the function, the hemodynamics, and any structural abnormalities like wall motion abnormality, valvular heart diseases, shunts, any kind of congenital heart diseases. On echo, we can easily identify. Now, this is another modality used in echocardiography, which is also known as stress strain imaging. So basically, we visualize the heart based on echo. On echo, we get the real-time image. Heart is continuously contracting and relaxing. When the muscles are contracting and relaxing, we measure the strain pattern of the muscle, how muscle contracted and how muscle is relaxed. So we usually assess the strain pattern of the heart. So this pattern is measured in these graphical pictures or graphical presentation to see the heart is on strain or is working on normal position. This is the stress strain imaging of the heart. This is one of the modality of the echocardiography. Now, after invention of 3D echo, The echo is more easily visualized. We can see the structure on right. Here you can see the 2D imaging. On left, sorry, on right, you can see the 3D imaging. So here you can see in 3D imaging, the mitral valve is easily visualized, which is opening and closing, and heart is continuously contracting and relaxing. This is the real-time image of the echocardiography, in which we see how heart is beating. So it's easily recognized on echocardiography. So this is the 3D image. On left side is the 2D image. In 2D, we get the grayscale, and in 3D, we get this kind of images, golden image, and all walls and structures are easily identified. Any functional abnormality or valve deformity or muscle mass abnormality easily diagnosed on echocardiogram. This is the basic diagnostic imaging technique in cardiology we widely use in all over the world. Now, second imaging technique is angiography. Angiography is another imaging technique. Through angiography, we basically place the catheter into the coronary arteries, and we inject the dye into the coronary artery, and through fluoroscope, we visualize the anatomy and contour of the coronary arteries. So this is basically a setup of a cath lab. Here you can see the patient is placed on the table, and above the patient you can see the fluoroscope, and there are the screens through which we see the images. And here you can see the person who is injecting a dye into the coronary arteries. When we inject the dye, we see the images through the fluoroscope on the screen. And through angiography, we easily see the anatomy of the coronary arteries and the structures and the contour of the coronary artery. If any stenosis or narrowing of the coronary artery is there, that can be easily diagnosed, and even PCI can be done in this setting. Now, here you can see the image, anatomical image. There are different route of access in angiography widely used. Here you can see this is the femoral axis. Through femoral artery, a catheter, blue color catheter is inserted, retrograde into the aorta, and we reach up to the aortic arch and aortic sinuses. And here you can know that the coronary arteries arises from the aortic sinuses. We engage the catheter into the coronary sinuses, right, left to right. Then we inject the dye. Here you can see this is the aorta, and in blue color you can see the catheter which is placed near the sinuses. One by one we can engage the coronary arteries like left and right. When we engage the coronary artery, we inject the dye into the coronary artery. We can easily see the course of the coronary artery and the anatomy of the coronary artery. Another route of access is radial artery. Through radial artery, you can also insert the catheter and reach up to the aorta and insert the catheter into the coronary artery. These are the different route of accesses through which we can access the coronary angiography. Radial, femoral, most commonly used. This is the radial approach. Here you can see through radial artery, the catheter is inserted, and again the long tail catheter which is inserted up to the coronary, up to the aorta and up till the origin of the coronary arteries. So this is basically the method to perform the angiography. Whenever there is a narrowing or stenosis of the coronary artery, if we want to do a PCI, PCI means percutaneous coronary intervention. There are two methods which widely used. One is to insert the balloon into the narrowed coronary artery and inflate the balloon to increase the lumen of the coronary artery. And second method is to place the stent into the stenotic coronary artery. I'll show you the picture. So this is the radial approach. Now, when you insert a dye into the coronary artery, you see the images like this. Now, these are the black dye which shows the courses of the coronary arteries. So here you can see that dye is passing into the coronary artery, which is easily visualized like these black lines. If there is any stenosis or narrowing, that can be easily diagnosed or that can be easily treated by PCI. So here you can see the RCA means right coronary artery, LCA means left coronary artery. LV means we are inserting a dye into the left ventricle to see the left ventricle function. So these are the different images which were taken during the angiography to see the coronary arteries and their course. Now here, this is the picture. In left side picture, you see in narrowing, arrow shows that is a narrowing of the coronary artery. That shows the stenosis of the coronary artery. Because the lumen is not normal, the contour is not normal. When the dye was injected, the dye comes up to here, and from this point, you can see the tail dye is moving in tail pattern to other part of the coronary artery. So this is not the normal flow of the dye into the coronary artery. That shows that the narrowing of the coronary artery. So to correct this abnormality, we do the PCI. Right side here, you can see the balloon is inserted. When the balloon is inflated, this narrowed portion is opened up. Or either we can place the stent into this disease portion. So this is basically a disease portion of the coronary artery, which is narrowed, which was treated by the PCI. Now, how we do the PCI? So in this picture, you can see a catheter, a balloon is placed. So over the catheter, there's a balloon, and over the balloon, there is a stent. Stent is basically made up of wire net. So when we inflate the balloon, the wire net balloon is stent is opened up, and we place the wire net stent into the lumen to make the patent coronary artery, and we deflate the balloon and we remove the balloon. So this is basically the method we do the PCI, coronary PCI or stenting. We call it stenting. This is the stent we placed. So this stent is made up of wire network, and this stent is basically placed by inflating the balloon. When the balloon is inflated, this stent opened up and stretch up the lumen of the coronary artery. So through this stent, the blood easily crosses to the distal part of the coronary arteries. So this is the method we perform in coronary angioplasty. So these are the techniques through which they place the stent. Now the third imaging technique is the thallium scan. This is also used to evaluate the heart muscle function, ischemic abnormalities, or viability of the myocardium. Thallium is widely used, but there are some pros and cons of the thallium scanning because it's a nuclear imaging study. So in this scanning technique, it's a specific machine is used to get the scanning images. While during scanning images, patient is injected with the nuclear isotope into the body. When these nuclear isotopes reach to the myocardial muscle cells, so we get the images. To do the thallium scanning, there is a protocol. First, we do the scanning at the rest. So here you can see this is the thallium scan pictures. So first row shows at resting. Second row shows at the peak stress. So these are the golden shadows which shows the radioisotope is taken up by the myocardial muscle cells. When the myocardial muscle blood flow is normal, these radioisotopes easily spread up into the muscles of the myocardium, and we see the markings of the myocardial muscle cell. If any part of the myocardial muscle cell is deficient of coronary blood flow, so there should be a defect or there is no golden line showed at that part of the myocardial muscle cells. So we do at the rest, we inject the thallium and do the scanning at the rest. And after exercise, again, we get the images like that. If there is any deficiency after exercise, that shows the stress-inducible ischemia at that part. And this is the indication of showing that that patient having a coronary artery disease. So thallium scanning is widely used, but this is basically invasive and patient injected with the radioisotope. So these are the three basic modalities which are used in cardiac imaging to diagnose the abnormality and all other things. So most important thing is what are the indications of these tests? So anybody knows when and how to perform these tests. Let's suppose if you are talking about the echocardiography. So what are the indications of echocardiography? Number one, if somebody comes to OPD and complaining of chest pain or any short of breath or any heart rate abnormality or palpitation, first thing we do the ECG and then we proceed for the echocardiography to see any structural abnormality of the heart. Let's suppose young patient used to come and they used to complain that they feel palpitation and faster heart rate. So first we do the ECG. If that patient having a tachycardia, then we proceed for the echocardiography. So if there is any abnormality like shunts, ASG, VSG, or PTA, or any valvular heart disease that can easily identified on echocardiography. So again, in echocardiography, we have three different modalities which are available. Number one is the transthoracic echocardiography, through which we place the transducer over the chest and we get the images of the heart. Number second is the transesophageal echocardiography. In this kind of echocardiography, we insert the endoscope into the esophagus and we get the images of the heart. In transesophageal echocardiography, the probe is different. Probe is just like an endoscope. Number third is the stress echocardiography. In this type of modality, we do echo and perform stress to the patient, and we again record the images. There are two type of stress echocardiography. Number one is drug induced, second one is exercise induced. So these are the different methods to do the echocardiography. You all know the angiography. When patient is diagnosed with coronary artery disease and we have to locate the stenosis or culprit artery and we are planning to treat that, so we do the angiography and to diagnose the culprit artery, and if the artery is accessible and feasible, we do the PCI, or if the artery is tightly occluded, then we recommend for the coronary artery bypass. So these are the diagnostic imaging modalities which are used. And now what is the indication of thallium scan? Now thallium scan is basically a modality to identify the ischemia of the myocardium or viability of the myocardium. Let's suppose if a person comes to us, he's complaining of chest pain on exertion, and we are suspecting any coronary artery disease. So we can send them to the thallium scan, and while in thallium scan, we can easily diagnose either this is a true pain due to the coronary artery disease or this is a pain of other than coronary artery disease. So this is one basically indication. Second indication, if a patient who had an MI, his myocardium is basically stunned or myocardium is not moving. To identify the viable cells of the myocardium, we suggest the thallium scan. So these are the basic three modalities for the cardiac imaging. And third part of the cardiology diagnostic test is ETT. ETT is not basically used as a cardiac imaging. ETT is the diagnostic modality for accessing the coronary artery disease. Let's suppose if a patient comes to us and he's complaining of chest pain or shortness of breath on exertion. So we recommend for the exercise tolerance test. Exercise tolerance test is a basically simple test. We do the exercise. We basically put the patient on the treadmill, and patient do the exercise on the treadmill. While exercise, we record the ECG, electrocardiogram. So there are different stages of the test. So patient do exercise on treadmill. If there is any ischemia or coronary artery disease, so ECG changes may be evident on treadmill exercise. We can easily identify the patient having a true ischemia or he's having a no coronary artery disease. So these are the basically diagnostic imaging which were used in cardiology. Any question regarding this diagnostic imaging, you can ask. Any questions?